Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. I was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome in here to Hot Mike with Dom Izzo. If you're tuning in for Dom Izzo and you're stuck with me, I'm Arlan Swenson. I'm sorry. Hope you'll stick around. Should be a fun 2 hours here ahead of us on this Boxing Day. I don't really know what Boxing Day is. It's just something I know that's happening today. I think up in Canada is what they do. Something with presents and gifts the day after Christmas. But thank you so much for being with us here Friday morning here inside our studio. Fantastic to be with you again. I'm Arlan Swenson here with you. If you haven't been watching the news at night, I've taken over. I'm the new sports anchor Monday through Friday. It's been an absolute pleasure to be in that new position. I've had so much fun so far. Truly an honor to get to do that each week, Monday through Friday, get to be in the sports from 6 to 10 and get you guys around the region the best sports coverage that we possibly can. So before we even get started, I just want to put that out there and say what a great time I've had. I got to work here at WDAY a couple years ago. I know I was on Dom's show here a couple weeks ago as a guest, and we talked about that. But it was fantastic. A couple years ago, I got to be a news reporter, and now coming back in the sports role. And I've just had an absolute blast so far. And again, thank you so much to WDAY, but also you guys in the community giving me a chance to bring you the sports each night. It's been a blast, and hopefully it's only going to keep on getting better here as we continue on. Yesterday, a big day in sports, of course. We can't take a break from sports no matter what day it is. If it's a holiday, we had Thanksgiving with football. Now Christmas has football as well. Of course, the NBA in action yesterday. A lot of us Vikings fans around here, and I got to say, as a Vikings fan myself, yesterday was bittersweet in a way to watch that game against the Lions. You almost wanted them to lose, but you don't want them to lose. It's fun to win still. Looking at that game, I mean, we'll get into the schedule here and what this means for the Vikings here in just a second. We can go ahead and play the highlights here from yesterday's game. It was on Netflix. Interesting little ordeal there with the game on Netflix. That was the story of the game. Right off the bat, the Vikings defense, 6 turnovers yesterday. That one just a bad snap by the Lions. Andrew Van Ginkel able to pounce on it. And that was, again, the story of the day for the Lions. It was a team that was coming in, and it seemed like they didn't want to win, even though their season depended on it. Aaron Jones plunges in for a touchdown to cap off the scoring drive, take advantage of the turnovers. The Vikings didn't do a great job of taking advantage of the turnovers, though. Here's another one. Jahmyr Gibbs on the fumble. If you're like me and you have him on your fantasy team, it's championship week. A little disappointed with his effort yesterday. I know a lot of people around fantasy football were disappointed with his effort. The Lions, this was a 4th and 1 now, still down by 7. I didn't know if he got this in live time. Looking at the replay, still don't know if David Montgomery did pick up that first down, but they do give him the first down. Then on 4th and goal, Isaac Tesla catches the touchdown, tie game. So the Vikings, again, forcing turnovers. Defense played great. Didn't take advantage of them maybe to their fullest ability. There's a pick for Byron Murphy Jr. after a fumble recovery earlier. That's when you think of a Brian Flores defense. I think you think of that play right there. You get in the backfield, force some pressure, a horrible throw by Jared Goff. Another one after a Vikings field goal. The first play of that next drive, Harrison Smith picks it off. I mean, it would just seem like every time you're watching the highlights, you think, geez, everything's a turnover. Well, that's the way it was. Here's another one. They just meet at the quarterback. Andrew Van Ginkel again. Dallas Turner meet at Jared Goff. And that's what the game was. I mean, the Lions just never got anything going offensively. It was weird to see a Lions team, especially from a year ago, that was so successful. Obviously, Ben Johnson not with them anymore. And to see their offense look so discombobulated yesterday, we got to give a lot of credit to the Vikings defense as well. They were really solid, and this is what really sealed the deal. Jordan Addison on the end around takes it all the way in for the touchdown. And the Vikings beat the Lions 23-10. Take a look at some of the stats. 51 yards for Max Brosmer, but he only had 3 net passing yards. If you take away the sacks, that goes against team passing yards. So 3 net passing yards, and you win by 13. See the day for Jared Goff, 2 picks. Didn't do a whole lot. Montgomery, the leading rusher for the Lions. And there's the 1 carry for Jordan Addison for 65 yards and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson got involved a little bit, 4 catches for 30 yards. That takes the Lions out of playoff contention. Minnesota's won 4 straight games. Everyone's sitting at home. If you're a Minnesota sports fan, you're saying, now we're winning games when we don't even want to. It's typical Minnesota sports team. Yesterday's win, I would say, from my perspective at least, it would have been a little easier to handle if J.J. McCarthy would have played. If J.J. McCarthy plays, and if he looks good, not what Max Brosmer looked like, but if J.J. McCarthy plays, he looks good. That's really all we're playing for now at the end of the season, is trying to find out who's going to be on this roster next year. If McCarthy plays, looks okay, or even looks as good as he did in, say, the Dallas game or the Washington game, I'd say great. A win is a win. We'll take it. Yeah, it hurts the draft pick a little bit. But, if you have J.J. McCarthy in there, that's what you want. You want to win games in December. I know Kevin O'Connell talked about that extensively. He's talked about it throughout the week, and then in his post-game little speech as well. He talks about how winning in December matters for an organization. That's what they're building for in the future years. Last year they were fantastic in December. They won 5 games, I think it was, before losing to the Lions in the regular season finale. But I think that game was in January officially. So that's what he's all about, is winning in December, and they've done it again this year. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough to get them in a playoff spot. But for the crowd out there of, we should be tanking, we should be trying to get a better draft pick, I don't know if that's always necessarily a direct correlation of you pick higher, you get a better player. I mean, you see guys taken all the time 2 or 3 picks after whatever your selection was, and that team ends up with a better player. So I don't know if that so much matters as far as the tanking goes. The thing that worries me is, I was talking about this a little bit before the show with some people here, is now the Vikings' schedule next year. So they're now going to have to play. They would have gotten the Titans, and it's not set in stone. The Vikings still could finish last in the NFC North. The Lions play the Bears next week. The Vikings are going to have a tough time with the Green Bay Packers, no matter who plays quarterback for them. They're just simply better than the Vikings, as we saw at Lambeau Field. But the Vikings now have to play likely the Colts instead of the Titans. I mean, you could say Cam Ward, year 2, could be better for the Titans. We'll have to wait and see on that one. The Colts might not have a quarterback at that point. Yeah, they got Phillip Rivers starting right now. I can't imagine he'll be back next year. Daniel Jones with the Achilles injury. Depends on when you play the Colts. They could be in a world of hurt. That one maybe doesn't hurt you so much. Look at the NFC East. They would have played the Giants if they were the last place team. Now they'll likely play the Washington Commanders. That one seems like, again, it might not be for sure the Commanders are going to be better necessarily. I mean, Jackson Dart could be really good in year 2. My guy Cam Scatterbo from Arizona State should be back for the Giants after his injury. They get Malik Neighbors back. You don't know that one for sure. It seems like the Commanders probably better with Jaden Daniels back, a team that was in the NFC Championship game a year ago, but the Vikings now likely playing Washington instead of New York. But this is the one that is killer, and I think everyone can agree it doesn't matter, who's on which teams at this point. They're just better rosters top to bottom, no matter what the offseason moves look like. Now, instead of playing the Arizona Cardinals, you finish 4th, you get to play the 4th place team in the NFC West. Would have got the Arizona Cardinals, who haven't been good since Kurt Warner was the quarterback and they went to that Super Bowl. I mean, just have not historically been great, especially in my lifetime. So instead of them, you either get the Seahawks, 49ers, or the Los Angeles Rams. And those are 3 teams right now that I think you would take those 3 against anyone else to win the Super Bowl. I would take them against the field to win the Super Bowl. So, 3 perennial Super Bowl contenders instead of the Arizona Cardinals. There's one that, maybe you'd like to lose that game yesterday to get to play the Cardinals. But like I said, you never know who could be quarterbacking who by what point in the season. Injuries obviously happen, and you're never trying to lose the game. I think that's something that, people kind of forget sometimes. You're never trying to lose. These guys are putting on pads, and they're going out there to hit people. They get paid a lot of money. They're always trying to win. And good for the Vikings. Good for the Vikings to get a win, I guess. Made my Christmas a little better, even though I didn't want them to win. You can think that, but it's always more fun when they do win. The Timberwolves also in action last night. If you stayed up to watch, it was a great game. I turned it on fourth quarter, 5 minutes left. Timberwolves were down, anywhere between 15 and 20. And the NBA, though, it's just a game of comebacks. It's all they do is make huge comebacks. The Timberwolves did that. Here's the shot by Anthony Edwards. That is unbelievable. I mean, they know what's coming. You know you're getting it to Ant. You know he's going to shoot the three. They needed it. That's to send the game to overtime. Then in overtime, he started cooking as well. Banks one in off the glass. The Wolves up 6 now in overtime. This three started overtime on a 9-0 run 2 minutes in. I mean, if this is college basketball, I'm a big college basketball guy. 9-point lead in overtime, 3 minutes to go, it's over. It's not college basketball. This is the NBA. Nikola Jokic, unbelievable game from him last night. 56-point triple-double. There's a three from Tim Hardaway Jr., and just like that, it's a 3-point game 30 seconds later. There's another Jokic three, gets them back within 2 after the Wolves hit a couple of free throws and extended their lead to 5. Now a 2-point game, and this is just unguardable. I mean, I don't know how you stop that when you can't have guys in the lane for more than 3 seconds. Ant gets all the way to the rim. That's a foul. I'm sorry, but that's a foul. You can see he wants a foul called for all the stuff that a lot of guys get called for in this league. Ant doesn't seem to get the same whistle. Jamal Murray with the response. He hits the three to give them a 3-point lead. They double Ant. There's a turnover, and then this is when things started to just get flat out weird. Ant goes in, dunks it, tries to knock it away from Jokic, gets a technical foul. He wasn't happy with the refs, as you saw from the previous play. And then this is another foul here by DiVincenzo. They called a foul, another one. I think if that's Anthony Edwards, I don't know if he gets that call because he, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to get the same whistle as a lot of the stars in the league, like a Nikola Jokic. And that's nothing against him, nothing against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, those guys. But there you see Anthony Edwards was ejected, actually, as you see him walking out. There's what I'm talking about for Jokic. 56 points, 16 boards, 15 assists. And Jamal Murray, just a casual 35 to help him out. 91 points they combined for the two stars. Anthony Edwards, 44 points in a losing effort. Julius Randle, 32 points, but he wasn't great down the stretch. Not his best stuff, to say the least. Jaden McDaniels, another guy. He was great defensively as well, especially late in the fourth quarter and overtime, got some key turnovers. But the Wolves lose to the Nuggets. They're now 0-3 against the Denver Nuggets here this season. Not a great start for them against those guys. They sit 5th in the West right now. They're tied with the Lakers. I mean, it seemed like for a while it was going to be the Thunder and then everyone else, but now the Spurs have beat them 3 times in the last 2 weeks, including a win yesterday on Christmas. So, I mean, hey, it looks like the Spurs are probably going to be right there with Victor Wembanyama, which he is fantastic to watch if you never got the chance. He is something else, the way he can dribble and move and also be 7'4" or however tall he is. But the Wolves lose, but I think what the game showed me, at least from a perspective last night, and we already knew this, but when you have a guy like Anthony Edwards, who is, I would say, without a doubt, a top 10 player, I'd put him in the top 5 players in the NBA, you're going to have a chance down the stretch. I mean, they were out of that game. He was on the bench for the first half of the fourth quarter, and then they put him back in. They went on a huge run. Again, you saw that shot to tie the game, send it to overtime. Just unbelievable what he can do on a basketball court. Maybe a lot of people out there might say, a little immature, getting kicked out of the game. But I mean, by the time when he was kicked out of the game was pretty much in hand. I think he wanted to make a point to the referees of, hey, why don't I get the same calls that Jokic does on the other end or Jamal Murray does on the other end? And I know he's been very vocal about when you're playing the Thunder. Him and Chris Finch as well been vocal about, they just don't get the same whistle as the Thunder, which I think every team in the NBA would tell you they don't get the same whistle as the Thunder. And so the Wolves, I got to say, though, I was ready for bed. It was past midnight, so if you missed that one last night, I'm glad we could show you some highlights there. And they sucked me right in. I was ready to watch, and that Ant hit the 3, went to overtime. Wolves are up 9. I'm not really a Timberwolves fan. I should put that out there. I would call them my Western Conference team. I'm a Detroit Pistons fan. It's a long story we don't have time for today, but not really a Wolves guy. I'll watch them. They're fun to watch. When I was living down there, it was a lot of fun to go to a Wolves game here and there. I prefer them to do well, but not necessarily a Wolves fan. So getting to watch that and just being able to appreciate good basketball on both sides was fun last night. We got a great show lined up for you today. In just a moment, we're going to have Jon Ammerman on the show. Spud Boys hockey has been great to start the season. They're ranked number 2 in the state. John Vittas will join us just after the 10 o'clock hour in the second hour of the show. Got to work with him this past summer. The Twins radio pre- and post-game host. Great working with him. Good to chat with him about Twins baseball, little World Baseball Classic. And then we'll chat with my dad. My dad's going to be here. Dom always has his dad on to pick some NFL games. So I figured, hey, we'll do the same thing. We'll have him here in studio. I know he's fired up to do that. So should be a lot of fun having him here in the studio with us. So we're going to take a first break here. When we come back, we'll have the Spud Boys hockey coach with us, Jon Ammerman, coming up. More on Hot Mic when we return. Welcome back on this Friday morning here. Hot Mic with Dom Izzo. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depends on how you look at it. Fortunate for me, it's Hot Mic with Arlan Swenson here this morning. The day after Christmas, wishing you all happy holidays. Thank you so much for being with us. We're joined now by Spud Boys hockey coach, Jon Ammerman. Coach, thanks for taking some time coming on with us here this morning. I know day after Christmas, kind of crazy. Like you were saying, your schedule, not like some teams. You guys don't have to play here for a little bit.
Yeah, kind of nice. Our kids get some time off. We played Tuesday night, and then we have a little bit of a stretch where guys can get away from the rink, and we still have a full week next Monday. So it'll be a little weird, by the end of the day, not being at the rink for a couple of days in a row, but I know that some of our families are really appreciating it.
Yeah, I'm sure. You talk about Tuesday, you win the game. We'll get to the game. I want to start, though, with the banner raising ceremony. As a guy that graduated from Moorhead, lived there my whole life, I wasn't able to go to the game. We had someone else there, though. I'm just by looking at it, though, players from 60 years all lined up. The banner goes up. Just describe what that was like for you and for those guys and everyone that was there on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, obviously it goes back a couple of months with just the planning and preparation, and obviously a big undertaking just to acknowledge the significance of the accomplishment, not only for our team and our group, but really for the dozens, the hundreds of people that put in time and effort. And it's kind of a culmination, and Brian Cole did an outstanding job of putting some stuff together with the help of a number of others. But he had an ambitious goal when we talked this fall. He said, I'm going to try and get a player from every single team to be there. And I basically told him, good luck. I thought that was a pretty high bar, and he nailed it. He had one player from every single team. Every coach that had led a team to the state tournament was there. And then obviously a number of other significant people like Dennis Bushy and a number of other community members. So a great celebration of the 2025 team, because that, was the group, but allowed a number of other people to be a part of it too. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, how cool was that? And like you said, the 2025 team is going to be what's remembered, that roster. But for those who know Spud hockey, obviously the 8 runner-ups, you guys have been knocking on the door for so many years. How cool was that, where the guys that didn't get to win it on the ice were still able to be there and feel like they were a part of it, even though they weren't the ones that won it? They obviously helped contribute to the program and getting you guys to that spot to win a state championship. How cool was that to have those guys there in person?
Yeah, and one of the things that makes our program so special and unique, that it does mean that much to a lot of people. People adjusted their travel plans and We had it near the holiday on purpose, so those kids from the 25 team could come back. They're kind of scattered all over North America, really playing hockey and going to college. So we wanted it over the break so they could all be there, and thankfully they all were. But kind of benefit of that was a lot of people that were traveling for Christmas were also able to attend. So it allowed for them to be a part of it. It allowed for us to acknowledge their contributions, and it was a really fun night overall.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you had the ceremony, and then you had to play a hockey game still. I don't know how it was in the locker room. I don't know what it's like for you as a coach, but I think the general fear is, all right, we're celebrating a state championship win. We have all these people here. We're talking about how great we are. And then you get on the ice, maybe you don't play well. That was not the case. You're playing Sartell on Tuesday, who's a pretty good team in Class A, and you guys just dominated from start to finish. How exciting was that to see for your group?
Yeah, and in front of a lot of eyes too. Our guys have been really lucky and fortunate that a lot of people have taken notice to them. It was kind of fun. We had the 25 team come into the locker room before, and Aiden Dufault, one of our captains, right off the starting lineup and got them fired up and ready to go. And overall, we were really pleased with how they played. We have a really dynamic team, especially up front in a number of weapons, and we benefited from it. But it was a few guys that you maybe don't see on the score sheet a lot that contributed on Tuesday night. Tyden Bergeson had a goal. Zach Zimmerman had a goal, but we had Johnny Grammer, who was elevated, had 2 goals. Will Cullen scored. George Arnold scored. So it wasn't just the names that you've heard for a couple of years now. We're starting to see some secondary scoring, which could be really fun the second half of the year if that continues.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit more. Like you said, the secondary score, I think everyone knows if you look at the line chart each night. I mean, they know Bergeson from the all-tournament team last year, Zimmerman as well, just committed to Mankato. I mean, I think the top-end talent, everyone knows where is there, but how important is that to be able to have those third-line guys contributing like that throughout the season, especially down the stretch as you enter section tournament and hopefully state tournament play? How big is that for you guys?
I think if people paid attention this past Saturday, it will be imperative as the second half of the year goes on. And once we get into those one and done situations, when we played Minnetonka, they were physical and strong, very structured, and they wore on us. And I think by the third period, we were out of gas. And there's a number of different reasons for that, and we don't need to get into it. But if you can have threats, multiple threats that you can throw out there, not only on the offensive zone, but also the ability to hang with teams defensively and structurally, you're obviously a much more dynamic team, and you can trust more people on, which means you can play faster because you're fresher and all those things. So Tuesday was a really good step in that direction. We're going to have a couple of guys that are going to need to step up here through some bumps and bruises, and it was a really good start.
You mentioned that Minnetonka game. We had it on our network, and obviously a lot of hype around it, 1 versus 2 in the state. You get them coming up to play here in Moorhead, which get the fans out to see. It was a great showing as far as the crowd. We're showing the highlights here now. How good was it, maybe, do you think, for your guys? Like you said, they felt like you were worn down in that third period, but to lose a game even, excuse me, and, you guys are obviously number 1 in the state coming into it, now number 2. Do you think maybe there's some positives that can come from losing a game, resetting things in a way, and getting back to, maybe doing some things that then you were able to do on Tuesday night against Sartell?
Yeah, it's all about framing of that, and it's a long season. I think it came at a time where it's not the worst thing in the world, but obviously you play to win every game. We thought we played okay, but ultimately one of the biggest things is it allowed us to sit down, reflect, look at some video, and to hold a few accountable for some of the things that have maybe gotten away from us. In some of our games, we've played really well in the first and second, and by the third period, some games have gotten away where guys are getting away with some bad habits. And Saturday was a good kind of centering opportunity for our team to look at some things we need to work on. And one of the most positive things is that when we turn around to Tuesday, and I'm going to look at it closer today when I watch some video, but a lot of the things that we talked about and reflected on, we saw, especially early in the game. So, the kids want to win, they want to be competitive, but we also have a long ways to go. We're still not even halfway through our schedule at this point. We got a month and a half before we have to be as good as we can be. And Saturday was, like you mentioned, a great environment. And we've benefited from the community members coming out. It's an exciting team to watch, no doubt, but people still have to get off their couch and brave the cold some nights. And we've been fortunate with that. And it was a great display of high school hockey. Unfortunately, we just came on the short end.
Yeah, I'm curious. Minnesota high school hockey might be covered. Maybe Texas football's up there, but it's covered in a way like you would think it's the NHL sometimes. Is it hard as a coach, or, when the kids have phones, they can read what the rest of us read, articles about how great your team is, the talent that you have that you've talked about, number one in the state. Is it hard sometimes to keep the blinders on in a way and get them focused on beating Sartell on Tuesday or playing Andover on Friday night when you have Minnetonka coming to town on Saturday?
It's a great question, but I don't know that we'd want it any other way, right? Our kids and our community benefits from the coverage that you and others give our guys and our team and our program, and that's not only because of what these guys are doing, but it's years and years of success and interest from our community and our alumni. But at the end of the day, what a great experience for our kids to be covered. I actually, this is a conversation that I've had with a number of other radio people. We have a local radio here that covers our games. That's a dying thing through high school athletics throughout the state. We have local TV and newspaper people that are covering our games. Like, that is something that is very unique to this market. And it's great experience for our kids to be able to get in front of adults and talk about games. And, if they do aspire, which many of them do, to play at the next level, it's going to be more and more of a reality for them. So, getting back to your initial question, with social media and access to everything, kids know it, but for us, it's something we have to acknowledge. There's no doubt about that, and try and figure out ways to motivate. But for the most part, a lot of our guys are intrinsically motivated where they want to be the best. So a lot of those, labels of number one, number two, whatever it is, I mean, obviously they know about it, but it isn't their motivating factor for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the coverage, we certainly love talking about Spud hockey here. Like you said, fun to watch, and I know around the state, I mean, there's a craving for it. People love their high school hockey. I'm one of them. I didn't play hockey, but I love covering it and love getting out to watch you guys. Looking up ahead of here, holiday tournament down in the cities, another chance to get down there. Cretin-Durham Hall, Shakopee, St. Thomas Academy. What are you looking forward to for that challenge? 3 good teams in 3 days.
Yeah, the holiday tournaments are great experiences because we can get away. We can be together for a number of days, and we always have quality competition. It's kind of our de facto mid-season. So we have individual player meetings. We talk about, where kids are at and what their roles are, but we also get to play some quality hockey back to back to back. And ultimately that's an experience that we hope our kids can lean on if we do get down to St. Paul, because it's just different when you're playing multiple games and multiple days. Obviously St. Paul is a little bit bigger of a stage, but it's a nice kind of dress rehearsal. If that is something we're fortunate enough to be able to do, but 3 quality opponents. Cretin-Durham Hall has put together a great program, and year in and year out, they're one of the best down in the east side of the metro. Shakopee is up and coming, but for the last couple of years, they've had some of the most talented rosters, especially in the Southwest Metro. And then St. Thomas Academy, the last couple of years, has been in the top 5, and we get to play them twice in a week and a half. So our work is still out there for us, and we should learn a lot about our team in a week.
Yeah, one more, then we'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your Friday afternoon. Watch some video. You got to coach Brooks Cullen last year. You got 3 more Cullens on the team this year. obviously kids that know the game very well growing up around it. How fun is it? Not just them, but like you said, getting to coach the amount of talent that you guys have and kids that understand the game. How much fun is that for you as a coach? And I guess how much easier does that make your job when you kind of can put them out there and, in a sense, let them go play, and you're probably going to be okay most nights?
Yeah, obviously we benefit from a very well organized youth hockey association, and there's some, pretty high level hockey minds that are behind that operation. So not only are our kids, physically good hockey players, but they think the game pretty well. And Brooks is a thinker for sure. He does a lot of things that don't show up. We now have Joey, his youngest brother, who's extremely dynamic. I haven't had the fortune of coaching him prior to this year, and he's been a lot of fun. And then the two cousins, Max and Will, are, kind of different players in their own right as well. But across the board, the one thing that I would say about this group of players, and I would extend that back, maybe the last 5 years, is they're extremely talented. They're very smart, but they also want more. So it's different in that you're maybe not coaching some of the things I was coaching 10 to 15 years ago. It's still the same structure. It's still the same ideas, but these guys, they strive for more. They want more. So we're getting more into individual video, in individual reflection, a lot of things that I would have thought was crazy, 5 to 10 years ago. We have individual skill sessions right now, and but it's pushed us as coaches and adults to provide more for kids, to offer more, to be creative and how we can do that around a school day. And it's provided an opportunity for these kids to stick around, to stay home, to trust that they're still improving. It's been a lot of fun to watch it, and those Cullen boys are behind a lot of it.
Yeah, fun to watch is an understatement, I would say, after getting the chance to watch you guys in person for the first time against Minnetonka. Just talent up and down the board. Thank you so much for coming on with us today. Enjoy your time off here for a little bit, and good luck next week down in the cities, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. That's Jon Ammerman, head coach of the Moorhead Spuds boys hockey team. They'll be back in action coming up here in the new year. Cretin-Durham Hall, they'll play on January 1st. Shakopee on the 2nd. St. Thomas Academy on the 3rd. They're not home again until January 20th at the Sports Center. That's against Grand Forks Central. We will have that for you, one of our high school games of the week on Extra. So that's their next home game. But, of course, all these games now are streamed. You can watch them when they're down in the cities and wherever else they may be. But thank you so much to Jon Ammerman. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the other two NFL games that were on yesterday on Christmas afternoon and on Netflix. What's the deal with football on Netflix, on Prime? More from Hot Mike coming up. Rolling along here on this Friday morning on Hot Mike. Riley Swenson with you here, filling in for Dom Izzo. Thank you so much again to Jon Ammerman for joining us, head coach of the Moorhead Spud boys hockey team. I might be a little biased, obviously being from Moorhead and rooting for the Spuds, but I mean, as he was saying, the talent is up and down the board there. They have great talent at defense and up front, obviously at the forward position with the three Cullen boys, as well as Tyden Bergeson, Zach Zimmerman, both committed to play Division I hockey. I'm sure there's more Division I commitments on the way from those guys in that group. So if you haven't got the chance to get over to the Sports Center and watch them, like I said, they won't be home again until January 20th, so you're going to have to wait a little bit to get over there and watch. But when they do return home, then they'll be on a nice little stretch through February as well with some home games. I would highly recommend, if you're a fan of hockey and have not got the chance to go over and watch them, to go watch them play. When we were talking with them last week, I was out at practice, and Tyden Bergeson was telling me, he said, we make plays and find guys in ways that most teams don't, and that would be a correct statement. For being a high school team, they score goals in ways that not a lot of high school teams do. They are a lot of fun to watch, regardless of who you cheer for. I think you can appreciate the way they play the game. Well, before we went to break, I said we're going to talk about NFL football yesterday. That was not the Vikings. The Cowboys winners over the Commanders in a meaningless game other than fantasy football championships, and then a meaningful game for the Broncos. They were winners over the Chiefs last night. at Arrowhead, possibly Travis Kelce's last game at Arrowhead Stadium, something to keep an eye on. But the game that interests me is the Cowboys and Commanders, not because of the outcome of the game or anything to do with the actual football on the field, but the fact that the game is on Netflix along with the Vikings game. I'm sure as many of you figured out, Vikings are Lions fans. And, I mean, it's the NFL. They can do whatever they want, and we're going to tune in because we love football, and a lot of people have Netflix the way it is. But you think about the people that, what about 90-year-old grandpa that wants to watch the Vikings on Christmas and can't figure out his Netflix? The game should be on Fox or ABC, NBC or CBS, should be cable TV for him. Can't find it. Now we got games on Netflix. And oh, by the way, if you have Netflix, great, you can watch 2 of the games. Then you also have to have Amazon Prime to watch the night game last night. Tomorrow you got to have NFL Network in the afternoon, which most people have with their standard cable package, wherever you get your cable from, or if you even have cable, whatever TV provider, I should say. No one uses cable anymore. But then at night, you have to have Peacock to watch the Packers and Ravens, which, again, I'm a person where I'm going to buy it, or I'm going to find someone that has it, or I'm going to go to a sports bar that has it because I want to watch, and it doesn't matter. It could be the 2 worst teams in football playing. I'm probably still going to find a way to get there and watch the game because it's the NFL. And they know they can do that. That's why they do it, and they can put it on however many different networks they want, and we're always going to tune in. But I just have the question of how far does this need to go before finally we as the consumer say, you know what, enough is enough. We want football on Fox and CBS like it's always been. We want Sunday Night Football on NBC. We want Monday Night Football on ESPN. We don't want to have Peacock, Prime, now added in Netflix. I mean, I'm sure YouTube's going to get involved here soon, have some games on YouTube that you have to pay for, or maybe they'll make that free. Who knows? But I just wonder, at what point do we say enough is enough, or do we just keep on paying the dues and watching our football? Because I know there's people, and I've talked to them, where they're you know what, it's not worth it to watch one game to get that subscription, or one game a week even, like Prime does with Thursday Night Football. And if their team doesn't play on Thursday Night Football, they don't really have interest in it, then they're not going to buy it for that one game, that 1 week. Obviously, the business model is working. We still have football streaming. It took over on Prime a few years back with Al Michaels on the call, which that's a separate conversation. But I just wonder, when are people just going to say, you know what, we want to be done with the streaming, and we just want football the way it was and have it on, standard cable networks. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I know I'm a person of the younger generation, so probably not who you'd expect to be saying, why are we streaming so many things? Because yes, I am someone that I can, and I know how to get Netflix. I know how to, I do have all the apps, so it's not a problem for me, but I do worry about the older fans and also just the amount of money people are spending already on the NFL. If you go to a game, I mean, you're paying an arm and a leg. All the gear people have, people are invested to it. And although the NFL can do it, I don't know if that makes it right, and they should do it. And I only think it's going to get more and more. I mean, NFL football on Christmas alone is a different concept. This year, understandable, Christmas on a Thursday. We have Thursday football every week anyway. They add games in the afternoon. The Thursday night game was branded as the usual Thursday night football game anyway on Amazon Prime. But this is just going to continue to be more and more streaming, and they're going to find any way they can add games into any spaces that people will make available. And unfortunately, they'll make money because we'll tune in and we'll watch. But the question is, I know they can, but I don't know if that makes it right, and they need to do that necessarily. That's just me. This is a rare chance for me to share an opinion on that. So thank you for listening to my take on the streaming of football. I think it's gone too far, but hey, what do I know? We're going to step aside here again, take one more quick break here in this first hour of Hot Mic. We come back, talk a little World Juniors hockey. Exciting time for UND players as well as the United States of America, Team Canada. They'll be in action tonight. Talking World Juniors here on Hot Mic. Welcome back to Hot Mic here Friday morning. Coming at you from our WDAY studios here. Arlan Swenson with you, filling in for Dom Izzo. Hopefully you're staying safe out there. Icy roads, I know, out there this morning across the state and across the region. So make sure to be careful as you're driving in. Told you we'd talk some World Juniors hockey. That gets started. Well, really, it's been started all week. They've had pre-tournament games around the state, which is fun, being that the World Juniors are hosted this year down in the Twin Cities. One group will play at 3M Arena, Mariucci, on the campus of the University of Minnesota. The other group will play at the now Grand Casino Arena in St. Paul. That's the U.S. group that will play at that arena, at the big time Wild Arena. So it's been going on all week, though. I know there's been pre-tournament games, practices in Bemidji, Duluth, and I want to say Mankato. I could be missing one in there, but now it really officially starts today. Today is the first action of real games. They'll do group play, and then the top, I believe it's 4 teams, advance into what becomes then quarterfinal games, and then all the way up to the gold medal game. January 5th is when the gold medal game is. Today, Sweden and Slovakia at noon. Denmark and Finland at 2:30. Germany and the United States at 5. They played them in the pre-tournament game. I think 8-0 was the final. So it should be a fairly easy one for the U.S. to get things started. And then Canada and Czechia at 7:30. All those games on NHL Network. That's where you can watch the entirety of the World Juniors tournament. And really the tournament each year, it comes down to really 2, 3, or 4 teams. I say 2, it's usually Canada and the United States. It feels like each year playing in the gold medal game, but Finland is in there occasionally. Sweden is in there occasionally, so I'll throw those 2 in there as well. It's very similar to what the Olympics would be, as far as obviously it's just the younger versions of those teams. The U.S. team goes without saying, it's the best under, I think, 20 players in the country. So they're going to have some talent. Cole Iserman, I think, would be fair to say the real headliner of this team as far as NHL scouting goes. Cole Hudson as well, a defenseman. But then UND's got a couple of guys. Will Zellers. There you have a look at the roster. Will Zellers on the U.S. roster as a forward. E.J. Emery, a defenseman. He made the team this year. And then Caleb Heil, goaltender. He is committed to play at UND. Currently plays for the Madison Capitals in the USHL. He's drafted as well in the NHL. So there's a look at the Team USA roster here for the World Juniors. They are back-to-back defending gold medal winners in the World Juniors tournament. And like I said, their biggest opposition, likely Canada. They will not play them in the group stage. United States in the group stage. They start today with Germany. Then they have Switzerland tomorrow at 5 o'clock, again on NHL Network. They have Sunday off. Then they'll be back in action on Monday against Slovakia. Slovakia, another team maybe you could throw in there as having a decent team some years. But, I mean, like I said, it comes down to Canada and the U.S., it seems, just about every year. Then they get the day off, and then on New Year's Eve, this will be the most exciting game of the group stage for the U.S. They will play Sweden at 5 o'clock on NHL Network. That is on New Year's Eve. And then the knockout stage begins on January 2nd. The 4 quarterfinals that day, 2 at Grand Casino Arena, 2 at 3M Arena, and then the semifinals January 4th, and then the championship and third place game January 5th. The semifinals and championship games being played at Grand Casino Arena. And it's a really fun tournament. I mean, if you like hockey, like we said, even if you don't like hockey, I think you can always get behind rooting for your country. I know if you're a UND fan or a Gophers fan even, Gophers have a couple players. I know Brody Ziemers, the captain of the U.S. team. LJ Mooney also on the roster for the Gophers. So some local talent getting in for the U.S. Canada, a lot of hype around them as well. They have Keaton Verhoff. He will play for them, as well as Cole Reshney will play for Team Canada from UND right here. So get a chance to see some guys that you don't always see playing together from different colleges around the country, getting to suit up for their country. Players around the country suiting up for their own countries. And it's right here in Minnesota, not too far of a drive down to Minneapolis, St. Paul. So if you have the chance, I know some people I've talked to that are going and are really looking forward to it. Like I said, it's special when you get to play for your country. It's not quite the Olympics. I know that's coming back this year. The NHL guys are going to play. It's very exciting. The World Juniors happens every year, so it has a little, not quite the same flair as an Olympics does, or like we saw with the Four Nations face-off. But I think for these guys, most of them only get one opportunity to play in a World Juniors tournament, and I think they really take it to heart and go out there and, they know they only get one shot at this thing. And like I said, back-to-back years, the U.S. Has won gold, so it's been exciting to watch them the past couple of years, and now it's down in the Twin Cities, and it rotates all around, not just, obviously, North America. It gets over into Europe based on the year, so you never know when it's going to be back this close ever again. It could be a long time before the World Junior Tournament is within driving distance. So if you have some time off here over the next week, thinking of what to do, I think that driving down and watching some hockey might not be a bad idea. Should note the Spengler Cup is also going on. The U.S. sent over, they have a collegiate select team that's over, so not guys that are playing World Juniors, basically the rest of college hockey to pick from. And then there's no age restriction on that as well. So just guys that are in college, what the U.S. did for that tournament, they are playing in the Spengler Cup. So there's another chance to watch a Team USA of sorts this time of year. But like I said, World Junior Hockey this upcoming week into the new year should be a lot of fun, close to home here. I know we'll be covering it as far as U.S. and Canada, predominantly with the UND guys being on those teams. But should be a great tournament, always is, and it's exciting. And hopefully we get treated to a U.S.-Canada game at some point, whether that be in the semifinals or the championship, is what you hope for with that. Should be a lot of fun whenever those two teams play. It doesn't matter what level it is. Anytime it's on the hockey scene, it's a lot of fun. Well, that wraps up our first hour here on Hot Mic. A lot to come in hour number 2. We'll chat with John Vittas. My dad will join the show, and we'll have a whole lot more here on Hot Mic, hour number 2 coming up.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Hour number 2 here of Hot Mic on this Friday morning. Of course, I am not Dom Izzo, as you can see. Arlan Swenson with you here on this Friday afternoon. Pleased to be with you. Had a great first hour. Got to talk with Jon Ammerman, head coach of the Moorhead Spud boys hockey team. Great conversation with him. And like we were talking about with him, it's crazy. Minnesota high school hockey is a little bit like Texas football. I think those are kind of the two that get compared a lot. And just the way that it's covered, not a bad thing like he was saying. It's actually, the way he looks at it, a great thing for him and his kids to get that attention. And hopefully a lot of them go on to play college hockey if that's their dreams and goals. And that's the way they're going to be covered in the future. So a lot of fun to talk to him about that, as well as about the banner raising ceremony this past week on Tuesday they had. I know that was something that was special for a lot of people in Moorhead, and something that's been a long time coming. They finally won the state hockey championship, and a lot of people got to be there to celebrate on Tuesday. Fun to hear him talk about that. Second hour coming up here. We'll have Jon Vittas on real shortly. I got to work with him this past summer when I was with the Minnesota Twins. He was in his first year as well, so it was fun. We were kind of learning the ropes together, so we had to talk to him about some Twins off-season chatter, or the lack thereof, outside of adding the ownership groups. Not really a whole lot going on the free agency front. Hopefully some moves being made. He got to work in minor league baseball for a while. We'll chat with him about that, as well as the World Baseball Classic coming up. We talked about World Juniors Hockey. There's a chance to watch the Team USA in the baseball arena, if you will, and a different sport, but still putting on the stars and stripes for the country, and talk a little World Baseball Classic. Right now, though, I'd love to talk a little college football playoff. Obviously, Dom will do this show again. Actually, I think it's Sam Getzinger hosting next week, but talk about it more when the games are closer. But this is my chance to talk a little CFP. So getting into it there, you take a look at the bracket. Oregon and Texas Tech in the 5-4 game. The Rose Bowl, Alabama and Indiana. I think those are two games where, I think in some ways it benefits you to play a game in the first round. Alabama went on the road and beat Oklahoma. Oregon clobbered James Madison at home. They let them score a few late. My pick going into this thing, obviously it would be easy to take Indiana, or you'd look at Ohio State, and they're supposed to be the front runners here. But you look at a team like Ohio State last year. They got to play a game at home against Tennessee. Then they went to the Rose Bowl, played number 1 Oregon, had a game under their belt, and absolutely put a shellacking on them at the Rose Bowl. And then they just used that momentum to win the semis, taking down Texas. That's a game that Arizona State should have been playing in. Not important right now, but just something that had to get out there. And then they went on, of course, to win the national championship against Notre Dame. So we had 1 year of the 12-team playoffs, so not a very large sample size. But looking at this, Oregon was the team I looked at and said, okay, they get to play James Madison, which, as you saw, no problem with them. Almost a warm-up game, if you will. And then now they get to play Texas Tech. And they could prove me wrong. Oregon's 2.5-point favorites in that game, by the way. I don't think Texas Tech is that great. And this is coming from someone who watched a lot of Big 12 football this year, being an Arizona State graduate and watching them play. We beat Texas Tech, if you're wondering. So put that out there for Arizona State. Good work, guys. But I don't know if Texas Tech is that great. I do think Oregon is really darn good. I think Dan Lanning is a heck of a coach, and I think they have a great chance to play in the Orange Bowl. If this was at Texas Tech, if they were still at campus sites, maybe a little different, but a neutral site game. I think as you can see, 11 a.m., it'll be noon start time down in Florida at the Orange Bowl in Miami. I think that benefits Oregon because they're going to come out and ready to play because they've already had a game. They know what the CFP is like. Texas Tech, you wonder, one, if they're going to come ready to play with that same mindset as Oregon, not having played a game. And two, having not played a game, if they're going to be, taken in by the moment a little bit. And Oregon doesn't strike me as a team that the moment's too big for them. Texas Tech, it seems to me, this will be the biggest game they've played in as a program, maybe ever. For sure in my lifetime, this will be the biggest game for them. But a lot of people said last year that Arizona State had no chance against Texas, and they ultimately should have won that game in this same scenario, the 4th seed playing against the 5 seed that got to play a home game. But the point being, Ohio State last year got a warm-up game and then went on to win the national championship. Again, we've had 1 year of this, so you can't say, oh, well, that's the way to do it because it's only been 1 year. But it seems to me that might be the formula for how to get it done. Looking at the Alabama and Indiana game, I think that's just a big game for college football. And if you're a college football fan, well, one, if you do not live in the state of Alabama and you are not an Alabama fan, you should be rooting for Indiana. Otherwise, I wonder a lot of things about you if you're not cheering for Indiana in that game against Alabama. But two, I think that's a big game for college football because of all the controversy of people thinking Alabama shouldn't have gotten in, that the SEC championship game should have counted for something against them, and really it didn't. They still got in. Then they win their first game against Oklahoma. If they beat Indiana in the Rose Bowl, we are going to hear nothing about Indiana and how great they were. All we're going to hear all offseason is how great the SEC is, and they proved it again. They beat the number one team. Alabama didn't even win the SEC, and they're still better than the Big Ten champ. And I just think that's something that, as a college football fan, I just don't think we want to go down that road. I think we all should be rooting for Indiana in that game to win and save us the headache of that potential conversation. Indiana 6.5-point favorites in that game, by the way. And again, that is the Rose Bowl game. Taking a look at the bottom half of the bracket, Ole Miss and Georgia. That's an interesting game, obviously, with the Lane Kiffin news. Him not being there, going up against Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. That's in the Sugar Bowl. As you can see, Georgia is favored in that one by 6.5. I don't know if Ole Miss has much of a chance in that game, to be honest with you. I hope they play well. I think it'd be cool to see them keep advancing without Lane Kiffin and kind of stick it to him a little bit, especially doing it in his backyard now in New Orleans, Louisiana. But, I mean, I talked about Texas Tech not being ready to go, not having played in a college football playoff. They're going to get Oregon. Georgia's a program. They know what this is going to be like. They know what it takes to win these types of games. Kirby Smart knows what it takes to win these types of games, and I would trust him. I trust coaches this time of year, and I think they're going to take care of business. Miami and Ohio State. If you watch the Miami-Texas A&M game, I'm sorry, first off, that was not what two playoff teams should look like this time of year. Was not a fun game to watch by any means. Ohio State favored by 9.5 in that game. And I believe that Notre Dame should have been in for a multitude of reasons. Maybe for starters don't have the rankings leading up to the final rankings if the rankings before aren't going to matter. That doesn't make sense to me personally. They've been ranked ahead of them all year, and then finally the last one, Notre Dame's out, Miami's in. That doesn't add up. I don't love Ohio State, but you got to respect what they can do. That's a game where I'm probably fine not watching. If I had to pick one that I was not going to watch, which of course I'm going to watch all of them, that would be one that I'm probably fine sitting out not watching Miami and Ohio State. That is in the Cotton Bowl, AT&T Stadium. That's on New Year's Eve. So get your college football fix in that night, and then 3 great games on New Year's Day to sit on the couch and relax and watch those football games. Overall, the CFP, I think, has been great just from the sense of we get more football. Who can complain about that? We get more football, more meaningful football. Coming up after this break, we will have Jon Vittas join us. Jon was in his first year with the Twins on their radio team this past season. I was an intern with them, so I got to work with Jon. We'll have him on, talk a little Twins baseball as well as some World Baseball Classic stuff. That's coming up after the break. More from Hot Mike after this. Welcome back Friday morning here on Hot Mike. Arlan Swenson with you here filling in for Dom Izzo. Happy Boxing Day again. Started the show with that. Don't really know what Boxing Day is, but I know it's something people say today on December 26th. So thanks for being with us here in our second hour. We got Jon Vittas joining us now. Jon started this past year with the Minnesota Twins radio team. I was a part of that team as an intern. Obviously, have moved on here, but Jon still down there in the Twin Cities. Jon, thanks for being with us here this morning. How's it going?
Doing great, Riley. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, a little weird. I saw you host a bunch of pre and post game shows. Now I'm the one hosting the show, interviewing you. A little different setup here this morning.
Yeah, a little bit, but we've talked plenty over the past 9 months.
We did. We certainly got to know each other very well. It was fun. Like I said, I started in January. That's about when Jon started as well with the Twins radio team. So he was on the air for half of the games as the pre- and post-game host and the in-studio updates. I'm sure you heard plenty of them if you follow Twins baseball. Tell us a little bit about what that was like. First season in the major leagues. Obviously, I was there for it. I know what it was like from that standpoint. But for the people at home that don't maybe know what the ins and outs look like. What was that like for you finally getting to work for a Major League Baseball team this past year?
Yeah, it definitely was not a stretch to say it was a dream come true. I know people hear that a lot when people make it to the major leagues, but it truly was for me. I mean, my first segment on air, I had a one-on-one baseball conversation with Paul Molitor, so that was one heck of a start to being on air. But the job started back in February, so I got to do the whole spring training experience, doing some reports from Fort Myers for all of spring training, and then learning from our radio team that Riley, you got to know so well. And Minnesota was special because the roles a lot of times in sports media are very specific and very pigeonholed into one thing. The role that I had that you got to witness alongside was very, very diverse and very multidimensional, where you're in multiple locations, several locations over the course of the day, and talking to players from both teams. So it was, I mean, it was a special year. I learned a lot. I got to be on air a ton, which was super rare. So many people would kill for that opportunity. So it was a great first year. I think Target Field makes the experience so much better. It's one of the best stadiums in baseball. So to shoot right into that setting was amazing. And there's pros and cons to not traveling. Obviously, the big pro is you get to see your family every day and be comfortable in one location. So we were able to cover the road games from Target Field. So there's a lot of comfort with being in the same place every day, and you can get better very quickly when you're working 6 days a week to bring Major League Baseball to the fans. So it was great, and I'm glad you got to experience it and be alongside. Definitely a special season, despite the wins and losses.
Yeah, the wins and losses. What wasn't great, it made for a great trade deadline. That was something I'll never forget. You mentioned your first day of being with Paul Molitor. I'll never forget the first day that I had of Carlos Correa and Pablo Lopez walking in and just shaking me and our other intern, Andrew Cornelius' hand like we were just old buddies was a little crazy to me. But I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned that, Target Field, the great stadium that it is, which I would agree. But living in Minnesota for the first time, you came up from Florida. You were down in Fort Myers, a little different climate. I know now you're in your first winter. What's that been like, moving into the Twin Cities and getting your first taste of a Minnesota winter now?
Yeah, I know it's still the first half of winter, so I can't fully evaluate the experience, but I think it's actually been better than my wife and I expected. We did grow up in cold weather states with snow, so it's not totally foreign to us, but I had been away from it for about 10 years. So it was my first time shoveling in quite a while for these few snows that we've had so far. So for us, it's still pretty exciting. Neither of us are working full time at the moment, being the off season. So I think it's a lot more tolerable when you don't have to commute in it every single day, but eventually we'll have to do that. So so far so good. We're definitely adjusting.
Awesome. Good to hear. I know. Yeah, like you said, you're not immune to the cold isn't new, but I think the Minnesota cold is a whole different animal. Let's get into the Twins a little bit. I know for you and I and guys that follow it and people that follow it each and every day, obviously it became less interesting after the deadline, but in some ways became more interesting because you're trying out guys for this year's team. And I think personally they have a lot of pieces still coming back that can be a winning baseball team. And if you bring back Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez at the top of that pitching rotation, I mean, I think this is a team where they went on that winning streak last year. I'd love to hear your thoughts on where they stand going into the 2026 season. I think it can be a fairly decent baseball team.
Yeah, I agree. I think last year's team was kind of defined, at least in the first half, by underperformance. So if you believe that water finds its level, they should be better than they were for the first half of the season this year compared to last year, because so many of the same names are back. I mean, everyone they lost at the deadline obviously was a significant factor, especially when you look at the bullpen. But they really didn't have any losses after that. There weren't a ton of impact players hitting free agency for the Twins. So it is actually a pretty similar team to what folks saw in the second half, which again was a team with a losing record, but they'll have a chance to replenish the pitching a little bit here, try and get everybody everybody healthy and ready to go for the season. Like there's no nagging injuries going into next year, which I think is important. And it'd be naive to think that they go into opening day with the roster you'd put on paper at the moment. But so far so good on the front of just having everybody ready to go for spring training. So I think, if you get a guy like Royce Lewis to perform at his usual level, that the team gets better. I know we're going to talk about Josh Bell. I think he's a real professional hitter. He's only going to add to the group. I mean, that pushes a player like Cody Clemens to a potential super utility role, which makes the team stronger. It's almost like you're adding a Willie Castro to the roster when you sign a Josh Bell, because Cody can move to wherever there's a need for offense. And I think he proved that he can hit last year. So yeah, I think the starting rotation is definitely the core of the team, but like overall the roster is probably not as thin as most people are making it out to be right now.
You mentioned Josh Bell. Like you said, I think, not going to be the headliner move of the offseason by any means, but a solid bat that can produce for you from the first base spot. You add him. If you were to guess, what do you think is next for the Twins in terms of the offseason? There's still, a lot of people want to make the big splash right now. There's still really only been a few guys off the board at this point that have signed free agency. Who do you think are some names to keep an eye on, or maybe just positionally wise, some targets ahead of the 2026 season?
I think pretty much all of the additions in free agency, at least moving forward, will be in the bullpen. I think that's where they need help. I think that's where they're going to be putting a lot of their focus. Now, I'm sure if there's a good value option towards the end, like the Twins did last year by adding Ty France and Harrison Bader late in the free agent cycle, I think they'll jump on that. But for now, I think the bullpen is where they have multiple openings, and would love to add some veteran arms that have done it for years at the major league level, because there are some promising arms down there. But they're very inexperienced, some of whom got a taste of the major leagues last year, some of whom have not yet come up from the minor leagues, and they could very well bump a starter to the bullpen, or maybe even two of them to start the season. But I think the Twins would be well served to add probably at least two bullpen arms. I think they could use another lefty. Re-signing Danny Coulomb to me makes a lot of sense. I know he enjoyed his time in Minnesota, and he's a free agent right now. And there's a handful of other quality left-handers that are on the market. That would be my prediction as to where the Twins go next. But of course, we're not in those meetings. We're not privy to what they're definitely going to do. But that would be my educated guess as to where the additions come between now and start of spring training.
Yeah, and I think people always want, the big splash like a Carlos Correa signing from a few years ago. But I think, like you're talking about, it's those bullpen pieces. If you can add the right guys, doesn't necessarily be the best guy out there, but the right guys to fit wherever the Twins need him to slot in. When you trade away as much bullpen arms, or as many bullpen arms as you did, you're going to need to add some in free agency. I want to talk World Baseball Classic. A little bit of a Twins tie. Joe Ryan announcing he's going to pitch for Team USA. The roster is absolutely stacked. We were talking about it off air. Maybe, as we were saying, the best Team USA roster ever constructed for this event. How exciting is it to see what they're going to put out there, at least on paper right now?
Yeah, if you think about the way major league rosters are constructed, there's always going to be a huge chunk of Americans on every major league roster. So you're always kind of dreaming of that best possible roster and what it would look like and how dominant it can be. And so far, this year's 1 through 9 in that lineup is as close to as good as you can get. If you're stacking the best American players in the world. And then, of course, you mentioned the pitching. I think getting Skeen, Skubal, Ryan, Logan Webb as your 1 through 4 is pretty close to as good as you can get. So this is the best they've done in a long time. I don't know who's in charge of recruiting, whether it's Mark DeRosa or Mike Hill or even some of the players themselves talking to each other. But they've done a great job getting these early commitments, because a lot of the other teams are not even nearly as filled out on paper as Team USA is. So we're going to be watching it. Riley, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like every tournament, the intensity goes up. Like, players care more. The TV package is more accessible. The crowds are more filled out because, some of the games can be lighter attendance, and then towards the end, it really does sell out. But it feels like the excitement for it gets better with each one, which is I'm sure what the league was hoping for, and it's becoming more appointment viewing for myself and hopefully a lot of other people. That when that tournament comes around every few years, especially when you get to the later rounds, you've got to watch.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. Obviously, when it first started, you didn't really know what you were getting into. And like you said, it really stems from the players' interest. And the pitchers are the ones that are the most at risk of, if you're a position player, why would you not play? You're going to play 162 games most likely anyway in the regular season. What's a few more? But for a pitcher to add those innings on, I think for Paul Skeens to start that trend, Skubal, Joe Ryan, Logan Webb, like you said, for those guys to stand up and say, you know what? I'm willing to do it for my country, and I think that it makes it interesting for the fans, and the fans are going to want to watch. The guy I want to talk about that we got to see play a lot, that's one of the headliners as far as the position players, Bobby Witt Jr. Of the Royals. I know we got to see him up close and personal, obviously being a division opponent of the Twins. Obviously, Aaron Judge is going to get some of the eyeballs, Cal Raleigh in the season he had. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is the most complete player, maybe not just on this roster, but in the major leagues as a whole. What have you seen from him? What can you tell people about him and what he can do?
Yeah, it was fun this year getting to see all the players in person, both in the clubhouse and then, of course, on the field as we're covering the game. Something that you definitely, there's certain things you can't see on TV that you can see at the ballpark. And for me, it was his speed. I did not know how fast he was. And it's top of the scale. I think he's ranked number 1 in baseball at times in sprint speed. So that impacts the game in a lot of ways. It helps him get to balls on the infield. It helps him steal bases. And then, of course, getting first to third on a single or scoring from first on a double. So that's a game-changing thing where it puts pressure on the defense. It distracts pitchers when he's on base. So I think we all knew that he can hit. He's a good defender. He's obviously very talented and young and still growing. But that's what jumped out to me was just how game-changing the speed was over the course of a game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's a game changer is an easy way to describe him. Well, John, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day here, day after Christmas. We'll be looking forward to hearing more from you this upcoming season on the Twins Radio Network. And always good to talk with you, my friend.
Yeah, nice having me. Thanks, Riley. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, that's John Vittas. You can hear him on the Treasure Island Baseball Network this summer with the Minnesota Twins. They'll start their spring training coverage coming up in February. So always good to hear from them. Always fun to follow Twins baseball, and a guy that I really enjoyed working with. Again, it was both of our first seasons at the major league level, getting to be around the clubhouse and the players each day. So like he said, it was a lot of fun to just be around those guys and get to see things from a different perspective. When you're in the clubhouse each day, get to see how they go about their business. Get to see then on the field. And we don't really get to watch from the radio studio. John got to be up and engineer some of the games, and so he was able to see it every now and then. I'd get to be up in the booth and watch it live. But you definitely, once you follow it for all 162 and you're there for the day in, day out, you get to know a little bit about, kind of like John was saying as well, not just the players in the Twins clubhouse. Obviously, we're going to know them well. But some of the visitors, and you go into the clubhouse and you can see guys and in their true personalities, if you will, and maybe it is what you expect and maybe it's not. But I definitely found myself rooting for guys then throughout the season, just based on interactions that we would have, or just how they carry themselves on a day-to-day basis, and seeing them at the ballpark was a lot of fun. All right, we're going to hit another break here. When we come back, my dad's going to join the show. He begged and pleaded to come on, and I said, you know what the heck? Let's talk some NFL football. We'll make some picks. My dad coming on Hot Mic when we return. Friday morning here on Hot Mic. Bringing you home here almost. I have some NFL picks here for you. Thank you to John Vittas again. For joining us there with the Minnesota Twins radio team. Got to know him this past year. Got to play a little golf with John. He was a great guy to work with day in, day out. And again, it was fun. His first year in the major leagues, along with me and the other intern, Andrew Cornelius, our first year, obviously, with the Major League Baseball team. He got to be with the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles the Twins minor league affiliate down there in Florida, did Jon. And so he was called up to the big leagues in a way. And again, thank you to him for joining us on the show. Joining us now, we're going to have my dad join us here to make some NFL picks. I was putting the guest list together for this Friday afternoon, or Friday morning, I should say, here. And thought, day after Christmas, I don't know who's going to be available, what would be good things to talk about. Jon Ammerman was nice enough to join us and talk about some Spud hockey, which is always great to talk to him. John Vittas was able to join us, obviously. It was nice enough to talk to him. And now we have my dad joining us here. Thanks for being with us here this morning. I knew you weren't busy, and I knew you would make time in your schedule to be here. So thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me, and I just want to clear the air. Begged and pleaded might be a stretch.
You did ask.
I did ask, kind of jokingly, but I know I have big shoes to fill with not being Dom's dad, but hopefully I can fill in adequately.
Well, I think you can do just fine. Like I said, we're going to pick some NFL games here, just like Dom and his dad do. So first up, we got Saturday afternoon, Houston and Los Angeles, Texans and Chargers. When I looked, the Chargers were favored by 2. ESPN has it as -1.5. There you can see the line -2.5 for the Chargers. What do you like in that game?
I think the Chargers are going to probably take that game. Texans are playing for their playoff life, but I think that Chargers are just too strong for them.
Well, I got a good buddy that's an equipment manager with the LA Chargers, so I got to go Chargers -2.5. I'll take LA to cover. Baltimore at Green Bay. Peacock on Saturday night. Green Bay favored by 2.5 against the Ravens, who might not have Lamar Jackson, but the Packers might not have Jordan Love.
That's kind of a toss-up, but as much as I hate to do this, I'll take Green Bay in that game.
I think I'm gonna agree with you just because of it being at Lambeau. I think even if they don't have Jordan Love, I think Malik Willis has proved that he can still be serviceable in that offense. And the thought of Baltimore not having Lamar, and they seemed pretty out of it last week. I think they're probably. I think they're almost packed up for the season, if you will, and the Packers, obviously, still a lot to play for. Moving to Sunday now, Cardinals at Cincinnati playing the Bengals. Bengals heavy favorites in that game, 7 points.
I think Cincinnati. I think Arizona's kind of playing for their draft position right now.
Yeah, I would also agree with you on that. I just don't know if a 5-10 team is deserving of a 7.5 point spread. I'm going to take the Cardinals to cover, and hopefully for some fantasy football players out there, Trey McBride has a big day after a dud last week. Moving to Seattle and Carolina, the Seahawks hitting the road. They are heavy favorites over the Panthers.
I think Seattle's going to win this game and just keep the foot on the gas to be the number 1 seed.
And you like them to cover 7.5?
I don't know if they'll cover. I pick them to win.
Okay, I'm with you there. I would take them to win. They've just been playing great football, but I would take the Panthers to cover in that one. They're still playing, obviously, for the NFC South against the Buccaneers. I think that they're in a good spot, and I think 7.5 points is a lot, especially with Carolina being at home. AFC North battle, Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Cleveland underdogs in that game. A real low over-under, too, 33.5.
I think that Pittsburgh's going to just kind of finish out strong here and take the North and go into the playoffs with a win.
I think the Steelers last week, what they did to the Lions and having some offensive output, that's why I was surprised a little bit at the over-under being so low, because the Steelers did show they have some offensive firepower last week. I think they win. I think they cover, and I think the over hits for a little bonus pick. The Toilet Bowl, New Orleans at Tennessee. That's one of those games I was advocating for football to be on the cable networks. That's a game where maybe we'd be fine with that one streaming and you don't have to watch.
I agree that it's that game and another one coming up, kind of dumpster fire. People playing for the draft, and that could certainly be on Netflix and nobody'd care.
So your pick then, New Orleans or Tennessee? Tennessee 2.5-point dogs.
I'm going to take Tennessee.
All right. Tennessee to win outright?
Yes.
All right, Tennessee to win outright. I mean, I don't know. I like Tyler Shuck. I think he's been actually fairly solid for the Saints. Maybe could be the starter week 1 next year. I'll take the Saints to cover the 2.5. Big game in Indianapolis this weekend. Colts hanging on for dear life. The Jaguars hoping to win the AFC South. Colts 6.5-point dogs at home to the Jaguars.
Well, you have the ageless wonder playing for the Colts, and he has really performed quite well after coming out of retirement at 44 years old. But I still think the Jags are going to take this game, and I think they will cover.
I would think if Daniel Jones is playing this game, obviously if he was playing throughout the season for the Colts, they'd be in a better spot. But with Phillip Rivers, I just don't think they can keep up with the Jaguars. We saw what they did last week in Denver. Their offense looked really dominant. I think they keep rolling and go on to win the AFC South. I think Jaguars win and cover. Tampa at Miami. The Buccaneers absolutely have to have it. The Dolphins doesn't really matter. Buccaneers favored by 5.5 on the road.
Tampa Bay wins but does not cover. I think it's a close game, comes down to a field goal, and they will push it to the last week to see how it comes out.
I just feel like, I don't know if the Dolphins, they seem like a team. There's some teams where they're still playing, like the Vikings, and they can't make the playoffs, and they seem like they care. I don't know if the Dolphins really care. We saw them last week against the Bengals just get absolutely torched. I think Tampa wins and covers in a game they absolutely have to have. The Patriots still in line, fighting for a number 1 seed in the AFC. They are in New Jersey taking on the Jets. Almost 2 touchdown favorites are the Patriots.
That's just kind of another one of those the AFC East matchups that can be a lot closer than it should be. Patriots will win, but I don't think they'll cover the spread.
Well, it feels a little wrong picking against the Jets in this manner on Dom's show, being a Jets fan, but I think he would agree the Jets are in a bad spot. They have a rookie quarterback right now that hasn't looked good, and I think the Patriots and Drake May roll. I think they cover. I think they win by 20 or so on the road. Another one of the games, as you mentioned, another dumpster fire, if you will, New York Giants, the football Giants on the road in Vegas taking on the Raiders. Raiders will be without Brock Bowers. He's done for the season.
I still think just that home field advantage for the Raiders. Nobody really, again, another Netflix game could be. I don't think either one of those teams are going to try to play that real strong game, but I'm going to take the Raiders at home to cover.
I think last week we saw bad Jackson Dart. I think this week we're going to see good Jackson Dart. And I think not having Brock Bowers, I just don't know if the Raiders are going to move the football a whole lot. I will take the Giants, not just to cover, but to win outright. Game of the day on Sunday, at least in the afternoon slate, without a doubt. Philadelphia at Buffalo. The Bills -1.5. A.J. Brown questionable, another guy to keep an eye on for those fantasy football championships.
I'm taking the Bills. I think they're just finishing out strong, and I think they're just going to beat the Eagles. The Eagles could possibly move up in a seeding situation at the last 2 games, but I think the Bills have more to play for.
It just seems like every year it's this time of year, it's when the Bills and Josh Allen become so good at home. It's probably going to snow because it seems like it always does for a big game there. And the Eagles, they've just had an up and down year, and I don't know if they're going to go into Buffalo and take down Josh Allen. I think the Bills win. I think they cover. Sunday night football. The Bears, they've already clinched a playoff berth, still trying to win the NFC North. They will be at San Francisco. The Niners 3-point favorites.
I'm taking the Niners on that one. I think that they just want to keep their spot in the playoff picture. Looks like there are probably 3 teams from the NFC West coming in there, and I think they just want to keep their playoff spot, stay ahead of the Rams in the playoff seedings.
I think San Francisco being at home in this one is what does it for me. Brock Purdy's looked good since being back from injury. Like you said, 3 teams from the NFC West. If the Niners win out, not only would they win the NFC West, they would win the number 1 seed. They would be the number 1 seed in the NFC. I think they're a motivated group, and I think they get it done. I think they win and cover. Monday Night Football, the last game we'll pick here. Rams, the LA Rams at the Atlanta Falcons. Talk about a big game for a fantasy football championship coming out on Monday night. A lot of guys on both sides. The Rams heavy favorites in that one.
Well, I think the Rams still want to keep their position in the playoffs too, and I don't know that they can be eliminated, but they want to just keep pace, and there's a possibility they could even move up in the seedings also.
I think, yes, I think the Rams win. Do they cover? I think that's a different story. I think Atlanta, with the pieces they have on offense, Drake London's back, should be healthy for Sunday. And we talked about at the start of the show how, yes, they can't make the playoffs, but I think they still obviously are playing as hard as they can. I think the Falcons cover at the very least. Well, we talked about the Vikings at the start of the show. We have you for a couple of minutes. You weren't here for it, but I know you're a Vikings fan, unfortunately, as am I. Well, what did you make of the game yesterday? 3 total passing yards, but still finding a way to win.
If you'd have looked at the stats, you'd have never thought that was going to be the outcome. But with the turnovers that the Lions kept handing the Vikings, and they took full advantage of it, wasn't very productive offense, but enough to get it done. It was, I'm sure, so disheartening. The Lions playing for their playoff lives.
Yeah. It was not looking like a team that wanted to make the playoffs, to say the least. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Did not beg and plead, folks. I asked him nicely if he would be on to help us pick some NFL games, having a little bit of fun with it here day after Christmas. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see how the picks end up this weekend.
Well, thanks for having me, and happy holidays to everybody out there.
All right, that's my dad, Arlan Swenson, with us here on Friday morning. We'll come back with what to watch and get you out the door for the weekend. More on Hot Mic after this. Wrapping things up here on Friday morning. Hot Mic rolling along. Riley Swenson filling in for Dom Izzo here. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Here, thank you so much, my dad, for coming in here in the studio, pick some NFL games, a little copycat-ish, if you will, taking what Dom does, but figured, hey, you know what, day after Christmas, I know he's not busy, he'll make some time for us, so we appreciated that. Fun to have him on the show, and you know, when I got the job here, you know, parents were pretty excited to have me move home, and they're always curious, you know, what's going on in the day-to-day, what's it look like behind the scenes? Well, now he can go home and he can talk about it with Mom, that now he knows what goes on here, at least on this side of things, on a day-to-day basis. Before we get you out the door here, What to Watch, presented by Northwestern Mutual. All right, USA and Germany, we talked about it. World Juniors, that's tonight at 5 on the NHL Network. The Gophers have a bowl game this afternoon, 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. That's in the Rate Bowl. I couldn't tell you any more about that than the fact that it's on at that time. It's the Rate Bowl, and it's against New Mexico. I don't know a darn thing about them. And then Central Michigan and Northwestern, some more bowl action. That's coming up at noon here on ESPN. Then the weekend, we got Georgia Tech and BYU. That I can tell you a little bit about. That's the Pop-Tart Bowl. If you haven't watched the Pop-Tart Bowl, you should watch the Pop-Tart Bowl. It doesn't matter what happens on the field. There are going to be live Pop-Tart mascots made of Pop-Tarts, and usually they put one in a toaster. They're edible. I know that much. It's exciting. If you have a bowl game this day and age, it seems, and you don't have something weird with a mascot going on, you're not doing it right. So Georgia Tech, BYU, watch that one. That's tomorrow, 2:30. Then Saturday night, Ravens and Packers on Peacock, as we discussed. Ravens trying to hang on for dear life, maybe without Lamar Jackson. Packers at home, always tough to play against. Then Texans and Chargers on the NFL Network tomorrow afternoon. That's what we got coming up this weekend. Thank you so much for being with us. Special thanks to Jon Ammerman, John Vittas, my dad, Arlan Swenson. And thanks to Dom Izzo for letting me fill in for him here on this Friday morning. We'll talk to you later. Have a great weekend, everyone. This has been Hot Mike.